Hello, everyone. My name is Sam, and I'm a culinary mentor and chef with Basics Market. And tonight we're presenting to you a lovely vegan dish, a plant-based dish involving some lovely produce and cashews. Um, if you have any questions as we go along, please uh, type them into your Q&A box and we will answer them as best we can. And let's get moving on this. So we're going to go ahead and begin with the sauce. So this is a great plant-based sauce. It's made with cashews and a plant-based milk, whether it be cashew milk or soy milk or really any unsweetened plant-based milk you have will work well for this. And this is just a great sauce to have in your sauce repertoire to put on all kinds of stuff. Great for grilled vegetables as we get into sort of grilling season and all that. But the cashews just make a really great sauce, creamy sauce. I use it a lot, like even for like a kind of a vegan mac and cheese sort of deal. So this is a wonderful technique to learn and use. So to start, you're going to want to soak, or boil and soak your cashews. So here we're just softening the cashew. And cashews are a seed. They come from the cashew tree, which is a native of South America. And the seed kind of hangs off the cashew apple. And it's the cashew apple can be juiced and turned. It's used for a liquor as well as like a kind of a sour juice. But we eat the seeds as a nut. It's a tree nut, and they just cream out really nice after they're soaked. So what you're going to want to do is take 6 tablespoons of raw cashews, and sometimes these are just called natural cashews, and they're actually not sold raw because there is an irritant which is on the outside of the cashew on the hole, so to speak, which is kind of it's the same stuff that's in poison ivy, so it causes like itching and burning and stuff. So all cashews have been steamed, even if they're raw or natural state cashews. But you don't want roasted cashews for this. So you boil those cashews, your 6 tablespoons, for 5 minutes, and then let them soak for about an hour, and that will give you a nice soft cashew. So for the sauce, we're going to go ahead and put the cashews. Here I have some white onion, which I just minced up. I have a clove of slivered garlic. I just sliced it up really thin. I have a bay leaf. And then here I have my cashew milk, or soy milk, or whatever you're using, 3/4 of a cup. And you can actually, so a lot of the nut milks that are commercially available have a lot of stabilizers and things of that, stabilizers and preservatives, which is necessary to keep them shelf stable, because a nut milk will tend to separate when it's over a matter of days. And so the commercial packaged stuff will often have a stabilizer, which isn't always necessarily a bad thing. It can be there's a lot of natural stabilizers like locust gum and guar gum and all these xanthan gum. These aren't necessarily bad things, but maybe you don't want an additive in your nut milk. And there is cashew milk is really easy to make. You just soak a cup of cashews overnight in water, drain them, strain them, and then put them in a blender with 4 cups of water and that's it. And then that's good for 4 days in your refrigerator. And you may have to shake it a little bit if it does separate, but you know, it's a pretty good way to go, and could be maybe more affordable as well. And you could make that in a smaller batch. Also, okay, so moving along here, I have salt and pepper. I have a teaspoon of salt and a half teaspoon of pepper. And here I've made a yin and yang to represent the yin and yang of this dish, with cashew and cauliflower meeting somewhere. So yeah, this is a great vegan dish. It has many of my favorite vegan foods, just favorite foods, I guess I should say, but foods I go to over and over when I am cooking vegan meals, and cauliflower and mushrooms, and then some sort of greens, and chard is a great green to use here. Really nice flavor. All right, so I'm bringing this to a simmer, and here I have a teaspoon and a half of miso. And miso is just a real powerhouse of flavors. And when you're, when you're doing this plant-based stuff, we're looking for umami centers. And so the miso is definitely going to give us a lot of flavor. Miso is a fermented soybean. It's fermented using a fungus, which is koji, which is a fungus which is grown and propagated on rice, and then put on the soybeans, and then they ferment with the miso. And from that fermentation, the stuff that comes off the top is soy sauce or tamari. And so that's where tamari comes from. So it's really an important part of flavor in a lot of cuisines. So there's three kinds of miso in broad categories, and we're using a white miso here, which is kind of the mellowest in flavor of the miso. There's white, yellow, and then red miso. Red miso is really good for like miso soup. Maybe if you want a nice strong miso soup flavor, that's where I like it. But yellow, a lot of people go to yellow miso because it is right in the middle of the red and the white, and you can use it in a lot of broad application. In the white miso is just a nice soft flavor, and we're using it here. And miso, if you haven't just tasted it on its own, it's pretty neat. Just take a little bite of the miso, and it's going to really just wakes up your taste buds. You see that umami flavor. Okay, so this is simmering away here, and while that is kind of simmering for 5 minutes or so, we are going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and move on to our prep. Now, also into the okay, let's look at our prep for the rest. We need the cauliflower. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop a quarter of this head of cauliflower here. So for this dish is really neat because it has these three. If you're looking at the recipe, you can see it really has like 3 little recipes that are going to bring this whole dish together. So you have the sauce, you have the roasted vegetables, and mushroom, which is like a saute steam aspect. So to begin with this one, I just kind of stabilize my base by cutting off the end of the cauliflower there, and then I'm going to go right through the center, and then I'm going to cut one of those halves and get my quarter. And here with this dish, one thing that's really cool is we're going to be utilizing the leaves as well as the florets on the cauliflower. So for our sauce here, we just kind of want to cut cut the leaves into thin strips and then maybe cut across to get sort of smaller, smaller pieces. And then we're going to go ahead and I have some, and when you've cooked off your cashews and soak them, you want to reserve a little bit of that liquid to add back in if you need to thin out your sauce a little bit. It's not a bad idea. So reserve a little bit of your cooking liquid from the cashews and just have that to the side in case you need to use it. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put some florets into our sauce. And here I'm just going to kind of chop these up in order to get them cooked quickly. There we go. So we just want to stir those guys in, and this is our order of the cauliflower. And cauliflower is really neat because it's a vegetable which grows in a fractal. So just like mathematically, all of the little florets mimic the whole cauliflower, and it spirals in, and it adheres to the mathematical formula of a fractal. It's kind of cool. Like cauliflower is just great. You know, it's used for all kinds of things now. From, you know, you see cauliflower rice, cauliflower pizza crust. Of course, it's great for roasting, like we're doing here. Sometimes I'll make like cauliflower steaks where you just slice down like this and then put your cauliflower on a sheet pan, little brushing of oil, olive oil or something, and some seasoning. And that's really cool. A nice way to have a cauliflower. So cauliflower is everywhere. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and keep the rest of this cauliflower for our roasted veg. Let this kind of simmer here for a moment. And let's look at what else we can prep. Let's kind of, I guess let's go ahead and we'll get into prepping the roasted veg a little bit. So cauliflower, of course, is a brassica, and it's related to broccoli and kale. So here we have a red pepper. This is going to be our other roasted vegetables, some olive oil, some paprika, which is related to the red bell there a little bit, as it is a dried and ground chili pepper. And in some, there's a branch of language where paprika actually means like a bell pepper that I've kind of come across, but it is actually more like a chili pepper from mild to spicy. So you'll see paprikas, there's smoked paprika, smoked hot paprika, sweet paprika. Here we're using a smoked paprika, and we're using a smoked hot paprika. And so when a paprika is smoked, it's actually usually smoked with oak, and then the peppers are just dried over an oak fire for sometimes a matter of days. And then when they're nice and dry, they're ground up and turned into paprika. And so paprika will lend a little bit, it lends color and flavor. Okay, so we're going to do some, chopping. Put the sheet pan, I have a sheet pan here with the parchment paper down. So for the bell pepper, this recipe calls for cutting the bell pepper into 8 segments. And both bell peppers I had today actually had like 8 lobes going down. So it's pretty fun to just follow those lines for something like this. So what I'm going to do is just cut down at each kind of lobe. And if you didn't have 8 lobes, you could just cut wherever and get 8 pieces or so. And this is a pretty average sort of medium bell pepper. And then you can just pop those guys right off. And then at some point, you can get rid of the stem and seed pack. And so it's a fairly quick and easy and clean way to get into the pepper and cut it into those 8 pieces. What is handy here is a paring knife just to clean up. So it's good to get this kind of white pithy bit off your bell pepper. Just it's a little bit, can be a little bitter, and it also can cause a bit of indigestion with some people. So we usually take that off. And the paring knife is nice because you can get into small places with the paring knife. And we'll just get all any loose seeds or pith. All right. And it looks like our sauce is going well here. I'm going to go ahead and cut the heat and just kind of let the cauliflower steam a little more. And at this point, while I'm thinking of it, I'm going to take out my bay leaf. It's always good to get that done so that you don't end up grinding up a bay leaf in your sauce. All right. So one thing I do need, which I forgot, is a nice big glass bowl, if you would. Right behind you there. Thank you. There, I see that it's always the one thing I forget, and that is that's my method. I'm glad it was just a bowl, maybe this time. We'll see. So go ahead and put your 8 pieces of bell pepper in the bowl, and then we're going to add some cauliflower. So we're going to go for some kind of large florets here, and this is where we're looking at the size. You want everything to kind of cook at the same rate. So we're going to go ahead and kind of look at the size of the bell pepper, and that'll key us into where we want the cauliflower. And again, we're going to utilize the leaves. So the leaves of the cauliflower are edible, and the stem, the whole thing is edible and delicious. And you can do all kinds of things with the leaves, from steaming to soups to sauces to roasting, as we're doing here. But there is a whole genre of cauliflower leaf cookery out there. I am going to just take out like the real kind of hardy stem, because that one just might not be as tender as the other things we have going on here. And yeah, you just want to get in there and get the leaves and the tender bits of the stem. And then from there, pop off your cauliflower florets. And really, once you get going, you just want to pop right off. So you'll go ahead and get all the florets. And this was quite a large cauliflower. So I'm just going to put, for now, what I can kind of fit in this bowl comfortably to toss for our demonstration. Yeah, you want to use the whole cauliflower because it's so good. Okay. So now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm putting, this is 2 teaspoons of olive oil, and I'm putting the olive oil on there first. And that's just to coat. I like to put the oil on my vegetables first when I'm roasting them, because that helps the salt, pepper, and whatever spices I'm using, in this case, paprika, helps it stick, helps those things stick to the vegetables. Okay, let's give this stuff a spin. Get all the paprika, salt, and pepper coating for cauliflower and red bells and cauliflower leaves. And then we're going to just go ahead and dump. All right, spread this stuff out and as well as you can, kind of keep it all separate, and that'll allow the best roast. And then this is going, you're going to want to have an oven preheated to 400 degrees, and this can go right in that oven. And then that cooks for about 10 minutes, you know, and depending on your oven, like here I have in this kitchen, a very aggressive oven. It like cooks stuff really quickly. So this finishes like in 15 minutes total in this oven, but ovens vary. So at 10 minutes, you're going to want to check it, kind of stir it around, flip things over if you need to, and then it can go a whole nother, up to another 10 minutes or so. Just you want that cauliflower to have color and to be tender. And then that's where you need that. Okay, let's have a look at our sauce, right? Let's go ahead and move to that. Let me move a little extra. And there we go. All right. So I have here a blender, and blender is pretty necessary for grinding up the cashews. You could use a food processor or an immersion blender would work. Also, let's put that sauce stuff in there. And then we're going to go ahead and zap it around a little bit. That's it. So that's a nice, real creamy kind of sauce, right? Looks great, smells good. A little more. There we have it. So we're just going to set the sauce aside for a moment and finish the remainder of our dish. So now we're going to get into the saute aspect of the dish. And this is where we bring in mushrooms and chard. So this dish calls for rainbow chard. And so rainbow chard is just chard. There is only one chard, but it comes in many colors. And so rainbow chard might look something like this, because chard will grow anywhere from purple, red, white, and yellow are real common, pinky kind of tones. And so what what rainbow chard is, it's these different plants will grow, either a yellow or a red or what have you, and then the leaves are put together into a bunch to make a rainbow, and it's, I guess it is rainbow flavored. This is the taste of the rainbow. And then, so we're going to need a half a head, if you would, of chard. Now, chard is really neat because it's closely related to beets. And when you look at it, you can kind of see how it's like a giant beet green. So at some point, beets went one direction and grew, the root developed, and chard, the leaf developed. And chard is native of Southern Europe and traced back to Sicily. And it kind of developed along the Southern European coastal areas. Swiss chard is just chard, and the Swiss is a designation to differentiate it from a chardon, which is like a French kind of vegetable thing. So anyway, chard is also related to quinoa, is in the same family, but regardless, it's quite a nice tender green and very nutritious, really good for us. Let's go ahead and see what we need to do with this chard. So we're going to stem it and then cut it into 1-inch slices. So stemming the chard, with chard, you can sort of do this tear stem thing, and you just want to go up to where the stem becomes tender. Alternatively, we can go ahead and use your knife and kind of cut the stem out. The stem on the chard is also edible, and so that's just a matter of your taste. It's a little bit tougher, of course, than the leaf, but it's not a terrible thing. It's kind of good. It has some texture, so you could include the stem in your dish here if you would like. So I'm just pulling the leaf right off the stem, and you can see it comes up off nice and clean. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we are going to cut this into 1-inch slices. So I'm going to use the chiffonade method here, where I'm just kind of rolling the leaves tightly, and then I'm going to cut it across in kind of 1-inch ribbons. And this is a quick and easy way to get some nice strips of chard. All right, so here's our chard. Let's get this thing fired up. So I've got a wok here, and a wok is a really great tool for something like this, like a big saute kind of deal where you've got some chunkier elements, and the neat thing about the wok is it's got a cool lid, which is helpful. And here we are going to be doing a little bit of steaming, so the lid is helpful. All right, I've got a shallot here, and that shallot is sort of a small onion. And if you don't have a shallot, a yellow onion is a good substitute flavor-wise for closest thing to a shallot. And then red onion would be next in line. But shallots have their own unique, kind of really nice, sweet and kind of subtle flavor. So we're going to go ahead and peel and slice this. So I treat the shallot just like a little onion, and I'm going to go ahead and take off the top end and then cut it down the middle on the root end. And from here, it's real easy to get the peel off. And I'm going to go ahead and leave that root end on, because that will help facilitate the slicing. So with an onion or a shallot, you want to go ahead and slice with the grain, so to speak. You can see the little lines on the shallot, and you want to slice along with those. And this is going to give us just our sliced shallot right off the bat there. Yes, a question.
Yeah, we need to repeat it if you don't mind. So
Yeah.
Linda had a really great suggestion. She can't eat cashews, so she used sunflower seeds and green pumpkin seeds. So that would be, I thought that was a great idea. She wanted to share that with you. She's making the sauce right along with us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so great. We have someone who is making the sauce along with me here, and I hope it's going well for you. And she's substituting some, what was it, pumpkin? Sunflower and pumpkin seeds for the cashews. And yeah, that's going to be a really nice sauce. And that's the thing here, we're really looking at technique and this sort of workaround for a creamy kind of sauce can work with a lot of different nuts or seeds. Cashews are tended to lend themselves to this because they have a really soft texture, but really, yeah, any nut or seed, if you have certain allergies, you can make substitutions and it should be fantastic. Okay, so now we've got some mushrooms, and I'm just going to need a half a pound or 8 ounces of mushrooms. And yeah, and that, while I'm thinking of it, it reminds me on the cashews on your recipe, it calls for 6 tablespoons, and I weighed that, and that's about 2.5 ounces of cashews. So when you're shopping, you know, and you just want to get maybe that amount, it's about 2.5 ounces is your 6 tablespoons of cashews. All right, so mushrooms, these are cremini, and cremini are, to me, a good workhorse mushroom. They're good all around mushroom. And really, cremini is just a teenage white mushroom is the baby version of the cremini, and then the portobello. They're actually all the same mushroom, but they're sold at different stages in the mushroom's development. And cremini is just a really good flavorful stage, and so I use them a lot, and that's what I'm using here. You can use any kind of mushroom you've got, and you know, wild mushrooms and all sorts of things would work great for this. So mushrooms, you know, to clean a mushroom with a store-bought mushroom, all you really need to do is brush off any dirt or it's usually actually like bark, I think is what they're grown in, and it's all sterilized, so it's not terribly dirty anyway, but you know, you can brush them off, or you can rinse them with a colander and then pat them dry, and that's another way to clean a mushroom. A wild mushroom, you know, you need to clean. Whoops, and that one jumped right out of my hand. You need to clean a little better because it will have the woods all over it. Okay, so I'm just kind of cutting these in big thick strips. You could also quarter the mushroom if you like. That would be kind of nice for this dish. Give you like a little bit of a chunkier bite. In a plant-based dish like this, mushrooms add a really nice kind of, again, a savory umami and a nice kind of texture to the dish, very satisfying. And so here we're just a dry saute kind of deal. And we're just kind of going to get this stuff moving in the dry pan, and then we'll add our chard and miso and a little liquid and finish it with a little bit of steam. We're getting a little bit of color on the shallots, which is nice. This water. And yeah, mushrooms I think I cook mushrooms almost every day in some form or another. We actually have the largest mushroom, not only the largest mushroom, but the largest living organism in the world resides here in Oregon, where I'm at, in the Blue Mountains. And it is a mushroom, and it's a honey fungus. And it spreads out over 2,000, almost 3,000 acres. And it's thousands of years old as well. And delicious, as it sends up its little shoots all over the place, and you can collect, you can eat from the largest living organism in the world if you go mushroom hunting in the Blue Mountains. All right, so here I have another bit of miso. So this is a tablespoon of miso here. And one really great thing about this dish is because of these different elements that we're cooking separately and then putting together, you're going to get a lot of nice levels, different levels of flavors. Really, the miso will tie it all together. Yes, a question.
Miriam would like to know, can she substitute tahini for miso or something else because she forgot to buy it for this?
All right, Mary is asking if you can substitute tahini for miso. I would say that you could. It will, yeah. I mean, it'll be a different flavor, of course. Tahini is a sesame seed, so it'll add kind of to the overall like nutty flavor, and you'll kind of get away, from the miso, the ferment flavor, but it will work. Yeah, you definitely can substitute some tahini, and you'll have a nice dish. And that is always the thing, right? With cooking, if you want to use what you've got and build on it and make it your own, and I bet you'll come up with something really tasty. All right. So here's
a question. They'd like to see the pan to see what color you're getting there. And
yeah.
also a little bit more detail about how you chop up the chard. Like, I think you want to mention the chicken on or something.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So here's a couple questions, comments. People want to see the color here, where you can hear it. They're squeaking, and that is, mushrooms are actually not a plant, a vegetable, or an animal. They are a fungus, and they're their own thing. They're the largest living kingdom on the planet. And here they're kind of screaming at me. But so we just start looking for a little color on those, let them soften up a bit. And then while that's happening, we'll do someone was interested in looking at how to get into the chard leaf again. And so that is just, you just want to kind of pull the leaf off the stem to the point where the stem gets nice and tender, and then there, you can just use that part of the stem. So again, we're just pulling the leaf off. Then you have your pile of leaves, and then we're going to go ahead and do like this is called chiffonade, where you're rolling the leaf tightly, and then you cut across. And here we're looking for about like 1-inch strips across. And what happens is that just gives you nice, somewhat even strips. And this is, you can do either a really thin chiffonade, which is nice, like tacos, that kind of thing, or big, larger chiffonade for something like this. Okay, so once again, I need a little splash of water, excuse me. And here we're just going to hydrate the miso a little bit. And this is what is going to make the steam.
We had a comment about using the stems for other things, some recommendations about chopping them out and use the vegetables, what other ideas we have.
For the leaf.
Stems of the chard.
Oh, the stems of the chard. Well, the stems of the chard, you know, they are a little bit they can be a little bit tough and a little bit bitter. So, but you can use them, you know, in like a stir fry kind of thing, like you would celery, something like that. You could juice them. That could be nice. So some chard juice. Yeah, a soup might be a great idea because you could cook them down a little bit and get them softened and tender. Yeah. Okay, so we've added the leaves there. And we've got our miso and juiced it up with just a little bit of water, like a couple of tablespoons of water. And then we just mix it up a little bit and pop the lid on there and let that steam. And so all that nice flavor, the miso or, you know, your tahini, if you're using the tahini, that's all going to get infused into the mushrooms and the chard, another drop of water to get the steam going. And then it's just working off sort of medium heat, and then I cranked it up a little bit to really get the steam going there. All right, it's a lovely.
We had a good suggestion on the stems, someone uses them to make vegetable broth.
Yeah, so someone was saying they use chard stems for vegetable broth, and that's always a good thing to use remainders of vegetables for. You know, you can save stems and cuttings and things in like a Ziploc bag in your freezer, and then when you have enough to make a batch of veggie broth, that is a great way to go. And speaking of veggie broth, you could use your veggie broth to splash in here and make your steam. You could also use tomato juice if you wanted, and that would add a little bit of a different flavor to the dish. So here we just want to go until the chard is wilted and your mushrooms are tender, so it doesn't take too long. There we go. And now we can assemble the dish. Oh, so let's see how the roasted vegetables are going, right? Perfect. Okay, so here's the roasted cauliflower and bell peppers and the cauliflower leaves. So with this dish, you can either put it together on a big platter and then at the table, or you could do individual plates. And so here I'm going to go ahead and just make myself a little plate here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start by putting this chard and mushroom down as our base. So I've got some nice mushrooms, chard, and make sure to get plenty of that. Those shallots. And then here we go with the roasted veggies. And there is a lot of nice, pretty colors. Maybe a little more chard just in the middle there. Okay, now we have the sauce, and likely you will have more than enough of this sauce. This makes a good amount of sauce. So if you don't use it all with this one dish, it's great. You can put it in a jar and keep it in the refrigerator, and it'll be good for you, good for 5 days in the refrigerator. And you can make this sauce thinner, or or thicker for that matter, if you want it more like a dippy kind of thing. And you just would add more liquid or less liquid depending. So that would be your milk, alternative milk of choice. And of course your reserved cashew soaking liquid. Anyways, there we
What
go.
else could you do with sauce if you have some left over?
So we have a question as to what else you could do with the sauce if you have some left over. Boy, so this sauce, again, this is really like a staple sort of plant-based cream sauce. And you can use this like as you would in Alfredo sauce. You could make some pasta and just toss it in the sauce, add some other veggies. You could layer this. Again, I keep pasta on my mind, but you could layer it in a lasagna. You could put it on any other vegetables or tofu or whatever you like. Yes.
Can you freeze it?
Yeah, the sauce can be frozen, and you could freeze it in ice cube trays. And for that matter, if you make your own cashew milk, same deal, you could freeze that in ice cube trays and then add it to like smoothies or sauces whenever you need it. And that way it's good like for at least 6 months in the freezer. Yeah, so you can freeze the sauce and bring it out as you need it. Yeah, good question. All right, let's see what we've got here. So I have a little cauliflower and some mushroom, some sauce.
Oh, great.
So delicious. Yes, a
Just
question.
a shout out, if you could, we have members of the Plant-Based Portland Meetup with us today, and I'm really appreciating your demo today. So just give a little shout out to them. Thank you for joining us, members of Plant-Based Portland Meetup.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Portland Plant-Based Meetup, for joining us today. Yeah, I hope you try this recipe and find it as delicious as I do. It's the paprika is nice. I really like using that smoky hot paprika. It adds a lot of flavor to this dish. But boy, this dish has so much nice texture variety going on, and some really good deep flavors. So please try it out if you are not already trying it out with me here. And if you are making it, enjoy eating it. And come back to more of these classes. We have an ongoing series of cooking classes here at the basics. And this class and other classes are available on our website, basicsmarket.com, as well as many recipes to look at and cook, and some little skill videos and things like that. So thank you everyone for joining me. And I look forward to our next class. Until then, happy cooking.